wonderful speaker here who's setting up the scene. Our dear Prabhaviṣṇu, the general manager of the project. Do you know him? Most of you? Ever seen him? Yeah, he's always hiding behind the scenes and doing the tough work while we are enjoying the kirtans. So Prabhaviṣṇu Prabhu, he has lived in India, born in Kolkata, lived in Germany and in New York. He has various degrees, one degree in biochemistry and one degree in finance, right?
Yes.
And tonight he's going to present the topic of gratitude, which is something, it's a hot topic nowadays. People are looking into it because we are becoming more and more ungrateful as civilization progresses. They say that if you're not grateful with what you have, you're going to lose it. And some also say that one has to be grateful for the good moments, when fortune comes. But one has to be grateful also for all those bad moments because they make us grow. But let us see what Prabhavishnu has to say about that. And let's do it.
Hare Krishna. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for coming. It's a Tuesday night, 2 days after Sunday. I know you guys are probably all tired. I'm tired. But it's a pleasure to be here to speak in front of such an esteemed audience. And can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking your time out of your busy schedules and coming here today. This topic of gratitude is something that I've been meditating on for the past 3 months since my spiritual master has left this world. He was someone who embodied giving himself to everyone, and he gave himself more than what he had. And that's something very, very rare to find in this world, because everyone in this world is very self-centered. They all put their own desires before everyone else's desires, or their own interests before others' interests. But worse than that is that they put their sense interests before their own interests. And this great soul, he really embodied how to give himself to others. And for that, I am grateful, which is why I decided to speak on this topic of gratitude and the attitude that we should have to embody this attitude of gratitude. So, with your blessings, let me start. I'd like to start this class with a small story about a king and his topmost warrior. All this is fictional, this never existed, but it's just one of those fair Vedic stories, kind of like folk stories that carried on from generations to generation, and then kind of taught like a moral value or something along those over the years. Similarly, this story is very interesting because it teaches us a small aspect of gratitude. So once upon a time, there lived a very powerful king, and he owned many states all over India. and he had a warrior with whose help he was able to achieve all these great victories in this opulent kingdom. And he loved this soldier of his general, his warrior, but somewhere in his heart, at the bottom of his heart, he always felt a little envy towards this general. He always wondered, why was I not able to do it myself? Why did I have to take his help? Or why is everyone glorifying him? But at the same time, he was grateful to him to a certain extent, and he realized that without his help, it would be difficult. But he wanted to know how great the soldier really was. So he decided to put the soldier to test. And one day, he spoke with his ministers, and he decided that there would be a special function or ceremony held where this warrior of his would be able to display his skills, his strength, his archery skills, his bowmanship, his back in the day they used to fight with clubs, so his clubmanship, all these things. And he would try to instigate the greed and the lust and all these negative qualities within that soldier, so he would be full of himself and then end up making a fool of himself in public. So the day came of this examination, this wonderful display of strength, and this warrior, he kept showing all of his skills one after the other. And then it came to a point where he had finished showing all of his skills, and then the king asked him to speak a few words. And the king realized that he's done so good now whatever he's going to say is going to be full of pride. He's going to be proud of his acts, his feats. But when the soldier started to speak, he spoke of another story, like how I'm telling you a story. He spoke of another story to the king. He said, "My dear king, once upon a time, there was a donkey and a saint. And the donkey was carrying the saint on his back. And when the saint and the donkey entered the city, everyone present in the gates around the city were showering flowers on the donkey and the saint. The saint, he didn't move an inch, he didn't react whatsoever. But the donkey, guess what he started to do? You want to take a guess what he did? What do donkeys do? Bray. He started to bray. He started to bray in happiness. He kept braying and braying and braying, but the saint didn't say a word, didn't even twitch his eyebrows. And then the soldier asked the king, "My dear king, do you know why the donkey was so happy?" It's because the donkey thought that he had achieved everything, because he was the one who was in charge. So all these great feats that the saint had achieved, all the mercy and the blessings that the saint was, and the adoration that the saint was getting, it was because of the donkey. So the donkey was thinking that he was all in all, that he was the proprietor, not the saint. And he kept on braying. And then the soldier said, "My dear king, I am this donkey, and you are my saint. It is because of your mercy that I am where I am. It is because of your mercy that I have been able to show all these skills. You are the one who taught me all these skills. Without your training, without your friendship, without your guidance, I could not be where I am." So this soldier had this attitude of gratitude in him this whole time, but the king just couldn't see it. And when he heard these sweet words of the soldier, the king's heart completely melted. And whatever drop of envy, the last drop of envy that was within his heart, disappeared for good. The king ran down to the podium and embraced the soldier and gave him the biggest hug he had ever given anyone. And he glorified the soldier, saying, "You are my kingdom, whatever is mine is yours," simply because of the gratitude that the soldier showed to the king. So what we can learn from this donkey and the soldier is that the donkey can be compared to the wicked person, whereas the soldier or the saint, they can be compared to the noble person. Wicked people, they have the tendency of using whatever knowledge that they have for arguments. They never use any knowledge that they gain for the good of humanity. Whereas a saint or a wise person or someone who's grateful, they know where to use the knowledge and how to benefit others. In the same way, the wicked people, they use their wealth only to boost their ego and make further plans that will make their position higher, seem higher. This is what we see in politics these days, around the world, throughout the world. And same way, there's noble people who support other people's causes, people who donate to charities, for example. Not the politicians, but the other people. Like, there's pious people in India who constantly help build temples, hospitals, places for taking care of animals. In India, it's called Goshala. Go means cow, and Shala means shelter. So, shelter for the cows. In the same way, power and influence. These wicked people, they don't know how to use their power properly. And the good people, they always use their power and influence for the benefit of others. So this nobility that exists within the heart in certain people, and it exists in lower degrees in the hearts of other people. Why is that? It is because of the lack of gratitude. So one way and the only way to develop nobility in the heart of somebody is through gratitude. It all starts with gratitude. So the whole reason why I explain the story is because I cannot just start speaking on such a heavy topic, such a wonderful topic, without giving the background as to why it's so important and who has these qualities and who doesn't have these qualities and how to cultivate these qualities. So that's what we'll be speaking on today. So gratitude nowadays is become such a widespread topic where we see everyone in the world talking about it in different forms, in different scenarios, in different settings, with different people. Some people have the journals where they write down what they're grateful for in the day-to-day lives, how they're grateful for their family members, how they're grateful for another day, how they're grateful for another day of not drinking, or how they're grateful for another day of surviving cancer. I'm sure everyone present in this room has 1, 2, 3, or even more than 3 reasons for being grateful. I have so many reasons for being grateful. Same way, it is essential that each and every one of us has some bit of gratitude left in our hearts so that we can be grateful to something or many things in our day-to-day lives. In the same way, in the spiritual culture of the Vaishnavas, our whole practice is based on gratitude. We wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock or sometimes earlier, and we offer our respects to our spiritual masters, our gurus, our acharyas, all the great souls who have come before us in this line and how they've paved the way to understanding this philosophy of Bhakti-yoga. And then after that, we even appreciate each other. We offer respects to other Vaishnavas. So in the morning, after our morning program, we sometimes offer when we have breakfast, we even offer gratitude to the meal that we take. So every single thing that we do in Bhakti-yoga, we offer gratitude. So gratitude is something that's essential, it's vital, it's essential, it's present in our day-to-day lives. And the more we try to be grateful for little things, big things, medium things, the better character and the more noble of a person we'll be able to become. So why is gratitude so important? Now this is a question that I ask all of you. Before I show the slide, would anyone like to answer this question? Why is gratitude so important? Not from what I've said, but from your own point of view.
It helps you live a happier life.
Happy life, very good. Kantia?
Helps you appreciate.
Anyone else? One more.
It energizes the person you're grateful to.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said.
It energizes the person you're grateful to.
It opens your heart, keeps your heart open.
I agree with all of
Oh, I
that.
agree. Okay. And then, that's all? Sorry?
I mean, it can also cut down your ego.
Yes. Ego. That's the key. So the ego, for some reason, rests in our mind, in our heart. Because the heart is where the mind rests, and within the mind is where the ego is. And it's through the mind that the ego displays the whole spectrum. So it's these tendencies of the mind that being grateful cuts down. Because the mind has a tendency to undervalue what we have and overvalue what we don't have. Like we see constantly people in this world, they're constantly complaining about things that they don't have. Someone who has a bicycle is complaining to someone else that, oh, I wish I had a car, oh, I wish I had a moped, or I wish I had a bike. And someone with a car is saying, oh, I wish I had a SUV, or I wish I had a sports car. And then someone with an SUV is saying, oh, I wish I had a helicopter, I wish I had a jet. And then a person with a jet is saying, I wish I was able to go to the moon. And so things like that, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the mind it's like a void. There's no limit to it. It's a subtle element, so it can take as much space as it wants in any direction it wants. So there's no limitation. You cannot limit the mind. So the more you give into the mind, the more difficult it becomes to control it. And if you're unable to control your mind, then you are unable to become grateful or practice gratitude. So this perpetual source of dissatisfaction rising from, I want this, I want what I don't have, and I don't care about what I have. Rejecting and accepting, or rejecting and wanting more. This constant struggle of the mind is what eventually leads us to unhappiness. And the Bhagavad Gita says that if you cannot be grateful, then you're simply partaking in sin. So this sinful life is what we are trying to move away from, because the sinful life is what is binding us to this world and making us take birth one after the other continuously without any cessation. So this brings me to another story, which is called, I titled it, "Is the grass really greener on the other side?" We hear this common phrase being said every now and then that, oh, don't worry bro, you'll be fine. Don't take it to your heart, the grass is greener on the other side. Or when a relationship comes to an end, your best friend says, don't worry bro, there's more fish in the sea. All will be good, you got this. So, but is this really true? Like, is it really green on the other side? Is there really that many fish in the sea? Will all those fish be able to make me happy? If I'm not able to be grateful for who I am, then how can another person make me happy? So in the same way, there's a story with a crow, a parrot, and a peacock. Does anyone know this story? No. Okay. You know?
I don't know, I have to hear it.
Okay, great. That's good, then I don't have to say a story that everyone knows. So once upon a time there was a crow, and well, you know, crows are ugly. They have no skills. They just caw all day, and they pass stool everywhere. They eat other birds' eggs, and they don't really provide any benefits to the human society or the bird society. That's what the Vedic scriptures say about crows. So the crow was wondering, I have black feathers, I can only do so many things. I wish I was as attractive as a parrot. I wish I had multicolored wings. I wish I could talk like a parrot. I wish I could copy other human beings and repeat what they're saying and gain the affection of people. Because when parrots speak, for some reason, people are mesmerized and they love to make that parrot talk more and more. In the same way, this crow thought, oh, I could be a parrot. I wish I could be a parrot. Let me go ask the parrot how I can become a parrot. So he goes to the parrot and then he says, dear parrot, I want to be you. I want to be like you. I want fame and recognition like you get. Then the parrot goes like, my dear crow, what recognition do you speak of? I can only speak after what people say. I have multicolored wings, but I can't do anything with them. I can just flap them like you and your wings. Nothing special. I just seem to have a little more color than you. You're black and I'm multicolored. So I'm not really the best inspiration that you should be chasing after. And then the parrot said, don't worry, there's more fish in the sea. Let me take you to the other fish. So he took them to the peacock. And they asked the peacock, dear peacock, we want to be you. We want to have feathers like you. We want to display of these feathers like you do. We want to attract humans and animals and other birds and everyone. We want to dance like you in the rain. And the peacock said, what? Why? Do you see where I'm situated? I'm situated in the zoo, in a cage. I cannot go anywhere. At least you can fly. And crow, at least you're not even in the zoo because no one wants you in the zoo. the parrot, at least he has some colorful wings, so that's why they kept him in a small cage. But me, I'm in a big cage, the size of my wings, and I can't even flap those wings. At least the parrot can flap his wings. So what is this greener side that you speak of? And then the parrot and the crow realized that, gosh, he's right. Nothing is greener on the other side. I should be happy with what I have. Because we were ungrateful, we couldn't realize our own strengths and our own privileges. The crow has complete freedom. No human being wants to go after a crow. No one wants to put a crow in a zoo or a cage. So the crow realized that he is happy where he is and he shouldn't worry about trying to become a parrot or a peacock, because this is what happens when you become a peacock. Everyone's attracted to you and they want you as their property. So this gratitude, this word gratitude, where does it come from? In Sanskrit, the word for gratitude is kritagya. It's two words put together, krita and gya. Krita means what has been done for you, and gya means to remember what has been done for you. Does this make sense? That's what gratitude is about, right? It's what someone has done for you, and you remembering what has been done to you. If you're not remembering, then the gratitude is missing. So it's a two-part thing. So this is what gratitude is. And now the question comes, who is a grateful person? How does one know who a grateful person is? How can they tell one grateful person and an ungrateful person apart? So, like I said before, the definition of gratitude is that, or a grateful person is that, one who remembers, cherishes, and holds in their heart the assistance, the encouragement, or the kindness extended to them by another. Do you guys agree with this definition? Can anyone of you remember of such an instance where you were grateful because someone did something for you? Of any of these three things, assistance, encouragement, or kindness extended?
Many.
Many. Fadil? Many, right?
Yeah.
Our whole life is just full of grateful moments that people have done so many things for us.
Actually, yeah.
Our whole life is based on gratitude, but we have not realized it, or we fail to realize it, and we'll come to that. But for one who has recognized it, they're called a grateful person. And such a grateful person is constantly trying to practice this attitude of gratitude. And once someone starts practicing this attitude of gratitude, they develop a certain feeling, a certain behavior, a certain way they interact with others. And this ways in which they develop, how they interact with others, it helps them develop this sense of desire to take action and reciprocate. Because once someone has done something for you, the only way to give that back is by reciprocating. So if you're not reciprocating, then you're not being grateful. So first, to build nobility of the heart, one has to become grateful. But then, to become grateful, to put great gratitude into action, the next step is doing something. Because without action, you're not doing it. So you cannot just be grateful without doing anything. Whether it be in your mind or through actions, you have to do something. And then, once a certain person starts behaving in this attitude of gratitude, then there's some result from it. When you do something, there's a reaction or a result that comes from it. And we went through this. And the result is that their heart, it becomes nourished. They've become a warmer person. They become kinder. They become more gentle. They become more thoughtful of what's happening around them. What should happen, what could have happened, and what didn't happen. They start to think of the bigger picture. Like the other day, someone showed me a video of a car crash where they were driving on the I-95 in Florida, I believe. Does I-95 go in Florida? Yeah. And then someone was driving on the same lane from the opposite direction. They were completely drunk, and they smashed into that car, and both cars were set ablaze, and everyone died in that accident. The reason why they showed me this because it was their 5th death anniversary of their best friend. And he said, he was my best friend, but I never spent enough time with him because after he moved to Florida 2 years ago, 2 years prior to the accident, we just lost contact. And 4 years of spending college life with this guy, all he could think of was how he never spent enough time with him and how he never thanked him for everything that the friend gave him. Because this student, when he was studying in college, he wasn't well off. His parents weren't well off. He couldn't afford tuition. So his best friend helped him out throughout college, all 4 years. This guy was paying out-of-state tuition in Florida, and his friend, he came from a wealthy family, so he was able to support his friend. But this guy took him for granted. He never thanked him properly. And the only thing that was running through his mind was, I didn't say thank you enough. I wasn't there for him when he needed me. If I was with him, I probably wouldn't have let him drive, and he probably wouldn't have died. So since that accident, his whole heart has been nourished completely to the point where he stopped drinking, he stopped partying, he stopped partaking in all the sinful things that most people out there are partaking in nowadays. He even goes to church now. He goes to church every Sunday without fail. I myself don't keep in contact with him because I'm quite busy here, but next time I go to Florida, I would love to meet up with him and talk to him about it. If gratitude holds such a significant place in such a mundane person's life, then just think how much space or how much place or how heavy gratitude weighs in the spiritual life. Because in spiritual life, it's complete opposite. In material life, you can still get by without someone being grateful to you. You can somehow you can exploit the material nature and get something out of it. But in spiritual life, it's all based on mercy. There's nothing in spiritual life that you can attain on your own. Bhakti-yoga is one such yoga practice that it's completely dependent on the mercy of others. Without the mercy of others, you cannot even come into this temple. Think about it. How did you come here? Did you find out about this by yourself? Someone gave you some card, you saw some flyer somewhere? That's mercy. That's gratitude that someone showed up on you. You didn't know about it. Same way, how did you come to this? Someone told you about it, your family. Same thing. Someone told you about this. The fact that you even know what I'm talking about, bhakti, the word bhakti, there's so many definitions of bhakti. But each day, each class you come on Tuesday, each Tuesday that you come to, you find a new definition of bhakti. You understand a new aspect of bhakti. Why is that? It's because you're coming and you're getting more mercy from association of so many people who are coming to the same program as you. So that's mercy in another form. That's gratitude being showered on you. Whether you realize it or not, you're being blessed. So without this understanding of gratitude that others are helping you at all times in your spiritual life, it becomes very difficult to progress in spiritual life. So and these people who don't know or who cannot see this gratitude, they are called akritakya. So in Sanskrit it's very easy. There's a good word and the opposite of that, you just put an A in the beginning, so it becomes the opposite. So akritakya is what someone has done for you. You remember what that someone has done for you, but not, which is the A in the beginning. So, who is such an ungrateful person? How can you tell such an ungrateful person apart from a grateful person? Basically, it's simple. It's that one who does not know that what another person has done for him, or he's not conscious, or is unaware. So many things are being done to people at all times, but no one knows how to be grateful. Because no one knows who to be grateful for. On a mundane person outside in the material world, how will they know who to be grateful towards? Do you have any ideas who we should be grateful towards? I gave a whole bunch of examples, but other than that, does anyone know of any other people, persons, entities to be grateful for?
Krishna.
Okay, a little lower than that. You get the ultimate answer, yes, but lower than that.
Prabhupada.
You can be grateful for trees.
For what?
That's
Cheese?
good one.
No, trees. No,
Trees, yes, trees.
Produce oxygen.
Your parents.
Oxygen, parents, teachers, insects, vultures, crazy people? Because they make you realize that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
The cows. In Bhakti-yoga, cows are very important because they give us milk. And milk makes our intelligence sharper, makes our memory sharper. It fills you up. You know, here in the temple, not every one of us has dinner. Most of the time we take milk as dinner because it's so fulfilling and so filling and so nourishing. So I myself, I'm very grateful to milk. That's one great thing. Actually, I'm more grateful to cows than I am to milk. But the scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam more specifically, answers this question. Who should we be grateful for or grateful to? Who should our gratefulness be directed towards? And there's a verse that we're not going to read it, but just this is the verse. We're not going to recite it, don't worry. So the first two lines, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnam Pritinam Na Kinkaru Nayam Rini Charajan. So these 6 things, every living entity who takes, or actually let me be more specific, every human being that takes birth in this world is indebted to these 6 species or groups of people, the demigods. Do you know that if you want to blink your eyes, you have to get sanction from a particular entity who's controlling your eyes? You can't just blink your eyes. To speak, you have to get permission. To do this, you have to get permission. To speak, I have to get permission. To sit, I have to get permission. For my spine muscles to be erect, I have to get permission. For the sun to shine, the sun has to take permission to shine. For the moon to come up, the moon needs permission. So, for every little thing, permission is required. The demigods or the devatas, they provide us all the necessities of life. They give us rain, sunshine, heat, fire, water, earth. Everything has a personification. Nothing in the Vedic world is just what it is. There's always something behind it. There's the immediate thing that you look at, and then there's efficient behind it, the energy or the entity or the living personality behind it. Same way, and for the demigods, how we can show our gratitude towards them is by performing sacrifices. And this is a very complicated sentence, but the essence is we just pray to them, say thank you. We offer some, go to the church, go to the temple, go to the mosque, just say some prayers. That's basically it. Then rishis or the sages, all the scriptures that we have, the Bhagavad Gita, which I'm sure all of you have read many, many times, the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the books that you've seen in the temple room, outside in the bookshelf upstairs, they're all being given by sages or acharyas or people who have come before us in the practice of Bhakti-yoga. They have given us this knowledge, so it is up to us to show gratitude to them by studying these books. Otherwise, what's the point of writing so many books? They spend hours and years of their lives, blood, sweat, and tears to write these books. So the least we can do is read those books. And then Bhuta, the ordinary living entities. Like I mentioned, the vulture. I saw a documentary from BBC a few months ago where they were talking about what significance of a vulture in the ecosystem. I used to think that vultures are just carnivores that, not even carnivores, what are they called?
Scavengers.
Scavengers that eat the dead,
Detritivores.
yeah, that, and then they clean up the thing and then they go away. They do more than that. The pH in their bellies is way less than 1 and a tiny bit above 0, which means that anything that goes into their belly will be digested. They can eat bones, hair, shoes, shirts, anything. So that's why it's so perfect. They're so perfectly created. Like their head is bald. So when they bite into this dead meat, nothing gets on their body because their head's bald. Nothing sticks to their hair. Like every other bird has hair on their head. The vulture, very nice. So the vultures are saving the world by keeping it clean. The bees, they're continuing the pollination of plants. Without bees, the whole ecosystem would come to an end. Pollination wouldn't happen. Flowers would not pollinate. In the same way, there's so many other living entities that are helping us. Can any of you think of another one?
Bacteria in your gut.
Bacteria in your gut. It's gross, but it's very important. Anyone else?
Spiders.
Spiders, how?
there'd be way more bugs if there weren't spiders.
So all the webs that are out there, that's good. Yeah. Anyone else? A dog. Barking all the time. For no reason sometimes. Then apta, friends and relatives. Everyone needs some sort of companionship. No one in this world can say that, oh, I am so satisfied that I can live with myself completely. Unless, of course, you're completely self-realized. Then you don't need anyone. But up until that point, you need someone. You need relatives, you need friends. You need support. So that's what we should be grateful for. The support that our friends and relatives show us. Then ordinary men, just people like us, the rest of the world. Even if you don't know them, we can learn so many things from a random person that you met on the street. Like some quirky thing that they've done, or some random video that they post on some random account that you come across and like, wow, I learned something. Some Amazon hack or some YouTube hack or something you learn. Nowadays everything is learned on social media, so everyone's on YouTube or Instagram. So most of the learning takes place on those channels. Then Pitrinam, forefathers. In some form or other, every one of us here have offered our respects to our forefathers, whether you know it or not. The fact that you go celebrate or mourn the death anniversaries, that's you offering respects to the fallen soul or body. In the same way, in the Vedic culture, there's something called a Shraddha ceremony, where you offer a little fire, water, something, and a little bit of food to the soul that's left the body, in hopes that it'll be directed to the right goal, which is Krishna. But it takes many, many lives. So it's not guaranteed, but still the effort is what that counts. And that's what we should be grateful for. But the second part of the verse, we just spoke with the first two lines. Now the last two lines say that one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, or Krishna, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the 6 things that we just talked about. If we take shelter of Krishna, we don't have to take shelter of the demigods. We don't have to pray to do this, or breathe, or open our eyes. Forget it. All is good. Great sages. We don't have to read any books. Well, any of the Vedas, I mean. The books up here, we have to read them. Those are important. But the ones outside, the Vedas, there's so many Vedas, so many versions of the Vedas, so many versions of the Bhagavad Gita. We don't have to read any of that. We're exempt. We don't have to worship any living beings. We don't have to pray for anything. We don't have to worship our forefathers. We don't have to be thankful to dogs, spiders, vultures, bacteria in the gut, or anything. We don't even have to be thankful to mankind. And we don't have to be thankful to those who have passed away. Simply by taking shelter of Krishna, simply by practicing Bhakti-yoga, you surpass all these requirements. You come to the highest point of being grateful, that is the lotus feet of Krishna. So the next question may arise, why should we take shelter of Krishna? Why should I not take shelter of the demigods and the forefathers and worship them and this and that? Because we are part and parcels of Krishna. And one who has taken shelter of Krishna, it doesn't need to take shelter of anyone else, because that someone else is also part and parcel of Krishna. Both of you are on the same level. Why should you take shelter from someone who's on the same level as you? You should go to take shelter of someone who's above you. Otherwise, that's not really taking shelter. Right? You can only take shelter from someone who can give you shelter. Another common man cannot give you shelter. I'm not talking about a self-realized person, that's a different story. I'm talking in general. Like, you cannot take shelter of a cow and expect you to progress in life. You can become more pious, you can get some credit, but you won't be indebted. Like, that debt will still be there. Same way, it's like watering the roots. When you water the roots of a plant, when you water a plant, you water the root. You don't go water the leaf and the stem and then the flower and all these things. No, you just water the root and everything else is watered. Same way, when you worship Krishna, all living entities in the whole wide world are worshipped, whether you know it or not. Same way, eating food. When you eat food, you don't put the food in your finger and say, oh, finger eat, oh, hand eat, oh, leg eat, oh, thigh eat. You put it to your stomach and then the food goes everywhere else. It's how the system is made. You offer food to the stomach, the whole body is nourished. Same way, if you offer your gratitude and your respects to Krishna, then every living entity in the world is shown respect to. Then the next question comes, who takes shelter of Krishna? Who are these people who take shelter of Krishna? And the answer is Vaishnavas. Anyone who takes shelter of Krishna has to be a devotee of Krishna. And they're called Vaishnava. That's the definition of a devotee. That's the name of a devotee. That's the name of the Sanskrit. So devotees, they take to the loving service of the Lord, and they always chant His glories and His names. And those are the people who are actually taking shelter of Krishna. And these are people who take shelter of Krishna. They know no one but Krishna. They know that there is nothing but Krishna. They know that nothing in their life will exist without Krishna. And they're always, always, always grateful, because they know that without the mercy of the Lord, nothing can happen. Not even a blade of grass can move without His permission. And so they're grateful to Krishna. They're grateful to everything else as well, but they're primarily grateful to Krishna. And how a Vaishnava is grateful is in many different ways. But the essence is this: a Vaishnava or a regular person may not always be grateful when they're in adverse situations. Like if someone's losing all their money, they're not going to be like, oh God, thank you so much for making me lose all my money. They're most likely going to cry. They're most likely going to try to win that money back. But a Vaishnava or a devotee is grateful both in prosperity and in adversity. They see whatever happening, good or bad, is the hand of Krishna, or the hand of God. They don't take any situation in a negative way. They always try to see the positive in both good and bad situations. Same way, they offer gratitude to themselves and to others. They know that whatever is happening to me is by the mercy of Krishna, and whatever other people are doing to me is also by the mercy of Krishna. Whether someone is being mean to me, or someone is robbing me, or someone who's stealing from me, is because Krishna wants them to steal from me, because He has a particular plan to purify me, to take me to the highest goal in life. Same way, when we're receiving something and we're serving others, a Vaishnava is always happy, or always grateful. They never see service to others or doing something for others as like, oh man, I really have to serve this person. I have to go take food for them upstairs. He's sick, but I have to go climb 4 flights of stairs to take food for him. He can just come down and get it. Like, he can be sick. I was sick last week. No one got me food. Why do I have to get him food? That's a very bad mentality. So a devotee of the Lord, they don't worry about these things. They are always grateful. It's okay, no one brought me food when I was sick, but let me bring something to someone and make up for that. And sometimes when we understand what's happening, then we're grateful. Okay, I did not study for my exam, which is why I failed. That's okay. I understand why. But I studied and I'm still failing. Why is this happening to me? Let me not be grateful to God for this. Let me not be grateful to my parents. Let me not be grateful to teachers. But a devotee, he's grateful even if he doesn't understand what's going on. Even if he's being robbed of all wealth, of all success, of all fame, of all beauty, of all wealth, he's still grateful. He understands that this is part of a bigger plan. Like Prabhupada, a founder, guru of this movement. When he was married before, he had 4 kids. And there was a point in his life when his business was going very successfully, but then all of a sudden, everything changed. His business was coming to an end, and he kept trying to revive it over and over again, but Krishna kept taking it away from him over and over again. And at one point, he realized that this is Krishna's plan. It's not up to me anymore. I cannot stop it. Such a pure devotee couldn't stop Krishna's plan, what to speak of us. So he just let go and he surrendered to Krishna. And he took on sannyas after that. And he came to America to start this movement. So this is what the attitude of a devotee is. And lastly, we might be grateful in our minds, but we're not always grateful in our actions. Like, we could, in our mind, be thinking, yeah, okay, he's a nice guy. I should be grateful to him. But then when we speak to him, it's like, oh, this guy. Or we go talk behind his back and we make fun of them. So that's not really being grateful. But a devotee of the Lord is grateful in both situations. One such devotee of the Lord is Prahlad Maharaj. Do you guys know who Prahlad Maharaj is? Who doesn't know who Prahlad is? Okay, in a nutshell, Prahlad was a 5-year-old kid who was the prince of a very powerful king who was a demon. And he was so powerful, the king was so powerful that he had taken over the entire world, heaven, hell, and earth. And he was reigning over all those worlds. And he wanted Prahlad, his son, 5-year-old son, to be just like him. But Prahlad had spiritual education at a very early age while he was in the womb of his mother. So his spiritual master, when he was speaking to his mother, he was in the womb and he heard the whole spiritual knowledge, all the spiritual verses there are to hear. He heard everything and he became a self-realized soul before he came out of his mother's womb. So this is Prahlad Maharaj. So because he was a pure devotee, he was constantly worshipping Lord Krishna or God at all times. And his demoniac father couldn't understand why he was doing so. So his father decided to kill him. A 5-year-old boy, his father, Hiranyakashipu, that was the name of his father. He decided to kill his 5-year-old son. He decided to torture his son first. He decided to put his son in the fire. He decided to put his son in a pit of snakes. And then he offered his son poison. But the son, nothing happened to the son. Poor Prahlad was saved from all these things. So each and every time when the father put him in such tribulations, his servants of his father asked him each and every time, were you not scared? Were you not scared when you were put in the fire? And then Prahlad Maharaj, because he was so absorbed in God, he said, God is fire, and fire is the mouth of God. And because God is my father, why would I be afraid if I go into his mouth? He will save me, so why should I be afraid? And then when he was offered poison, he took the poison. Nothing happened to him. Then the servants of this demoniac king asked him, were you not scared of poison? What happened? How did you survive that? And he said, well, back in the day, years and years ago, when the devotees and the non-devotees, or the demigods and the demons, when they were churning, there was a special mountain that they were churning from which many good things and many bad things came out of. So from that mountain came good things, and from that mountain came bad things. So the poison also came out of the same mountain, and nectar also came out of the same mountain. So nectar and poison are like brothers and sisters. So why should we be afraid of my brother? Right? And the demonic servants were dumbstruck. They didn't know what to say. So they decided to put him in a pit full of snakes. Then Prahlad survived that as well. And then these people were like, what? How did you survive a pit full of snakes? You're 5 years old. And then Prahlad said, well, God is my father, and God lays down on a snake. And that snake's name is Ananta Shesh. Shesha means snake, and Ananta means unending. So if God sleeps on this unlimited snake, then that makes him the king of all serpents. And because that king of serpents is a serpent of my father, which is God, why should I be afraid of that servant? Why would he do anything to me? So that firm faith that he had, that attitude of gratitude that Prahlad had, truly makes him an exemplary Vaishnava or devotee. Yes?
2 questions.
Yes.
So, if someone comes and tries to rob you, do you not fight back because it's Krishna's plan?
Can I answer the question after the lecture ends? It's almost done.
Okay.
So this is an example of a devotee who exemplified this attitude of gratitude at all times. So this basically brings our whole discussion to a conclusion where we can now ask ourselves, how do we be grateful? How are some ways where we can be grateful and learn the art of gratitude? So one such way is by remembering the people who have helped us. Like I said before, at all times in our lives, we are requiring help. There's nothing that we're doing on our own. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even the words that I'm saying right now, I think I'm speaking, but I'm actually not speaking. By the sanction of higher authorities, sound is being vibrated and you guys are hearing it. And then remembering the exact details of how someone helped you and the nature that they helped you in. Sometimes, even though some people help you, they're helping you for their own selfish desires. But some people, they help you because they want to help you genuinely. So to remember that true gratitude is when someone helps you from a genuine point of view. So to remember that, that's being grateful. That's how you can be grateful. And then contemplating on how their help has transformed and affected our lives. That's another way to think of how we can be grateful. Because if you're not thinking of what has been done to you, then you're not really conscious. You're just there, like a dead body, nothing better than a dead body. So this whole spiritual life is about contemplating things. It's all about always thinking. There's no moment in spiritual life where you can just sit still and just be like, yeah, I've got it all. I know it all. I've read everything. No, because spiritual life is never ending. It's unlimited. This material world is limited. You will die one day. You will come to an end. Your family will come to an end. Your car will come to an end. Your house will come to an end. But the soul inside your body will never come to an end because it's immortal. It's unlimited. So when we can understand how there's unlimited mercy around us, then we can practice a little bit of gratitude to understand the extent of how blessed we are in this world. And then reflecting on how others have suffered and how others have felt when they have gone through the same thing. We see there's so many people in this world who, one example that comes to mind is handicapped people. Like I just saw someone who came to the temple with one arm today, and they were asking for food. And I was at the reception and I just didn't know how to help them because I was on the phone, and they came in and I was just like, yeah. So I was like, hold on a minute, give me a minute. So I eventually helped them, but the only thing I could think of was, this person still made the effort to come into the temple to ask for food. He's a homeless person. There's no way that he's surviving on his own. He's going from door to door asking for things. And it made me think how fortunate I am to be here with 2 working hands and 2 working legs and 1 functioning brain sometimes. And I was very thankful, and that's why I reflected on this one very nicely. And then the next point I said is reciting a silent prayer for them. And I did make a little prayer. I was like, oh Krishna, may this person have both his hands and legs in his next life so he can serve you better. And then reciprocating. That reciprocation in the appropriate way is very important. If we do not know how to reciprocate properly to someone's help, then we make them feel a little unworthy of the help that they showed us. It's always nice to be a little thankful and let the person know that you are thankful. So these are the 6 ways that I think that we can all practice gratitude. And yeah, that brings this whole discussion to a conclusion. It's a huge topic. Gratitude is a huge topic. So to condense it in a 45-minute presentation is a little difficult. So forgive me if anything was unclear. Forgive me if I didn't make any sense. Forgive me if the transitions weren't perfect. It's a lot. And to break it down in simple terms for a simple person like me is a little difficult. So sorry. But I hope you guys understand. Yes, it's okay. If there's any questions, we can.
Yeah, the questions were, if, like, say if you walking down the street and someone robs you, as you said, like, do you not try to not get robbed because maybe it's Krishna's plan? And also, what about becoming the robber yourself? Because maybe that's Krishna's plan, and good and evil both reside, or good and bad both reside in the mountain. Like, what is your perspective on that?
I'll answer the second question first. God never wants us to do anything bad to anyone. God will never want us to rob anyone. He wants us to fight. Like the whole Bhagavad Gita is based in the environment of a war on a battlefield. So God is not telling Arjuna, don't fight, I'll take care of everything. He says, no, you fight and I'll take care of everything. He doesn't say, oh, you relax and I'll take care of everything. So it's not that taking care of things means that you become the bad guy. You have to, just because someone has robbed you doesn't mean that you can rob that person or you rob someone else to get the money that you lost. That's where you have to see that because of what I've done in my previous life, or because of what I've done in this life, or what I was about to do in the future, God made this happen to me so that either I paid the price of what I've done before, or it cancels out what's going to happen to me in the future again. So if you think in that way, not that, damn it, someone robbed me, I'm going to go rob someone now to get my money back. Then you're becoming them. What's the difference between you and them? If everyone takes the path of the bad, then what's the difference between a demon and a devotee? We're trying to be good people. But if you're becoming bad, then that's a futile effort. Now the first question, what was your first question again? If you get robbed, what are you supposed to do?
Do you do you try not to get robbed, or do you just say, I'm just take it?
No,
You said they don't have a gun or something like that.
Let's take the gun out of the picture and then we'll answer it like that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't tell Arjuna, oh, your family was disrespected, your wife was disrobed, your kingdom was stolen away, your land was taken away, your army was defeated, taken away, your mother was separated from you for 13 years. It's okay, forgive them, all is good. No, he says, take it back, because that's your nature. You're a king, you're a prince. It is your nature to fight, because kings are supposed to protect. That's one of the functions and the duties of a king. So he says, you have to protect them. Same way, whatever property God has given you, whatever property Krishna has given you, that means that you're supposed to protect that property. And if someone steals something from you, yes, to a certain extent, you have to fight back. Of course, if he has a gun, you should be smart enough to step back and realize that my life is at stake now. But if it's someone that you know, that you can fight back and get your belongings back, then you should fight back. But not that shouldn't be your first response that, yeah, I'm going to fight now, I'm going to fight. No, you have to judge the situation on time, place, and circumstance. Not every situation will be the same. Like if someone comes to you on a bike and takes your bag away, what are you going to do? This happens in third world countries all the time. It happened to my mom in India. There's nothing she could have done. She's a 53-year-old woman with arthritis. What is she going to do? Run after the bike? At that point, she said, what to do? But if it's in your control, if you can control it, then you should try. But not that if you don't succeed, then you should be upset over it and mourn over it and cry over it and then ruin your whole life over that one thing. So there's two parts. First part is seeing what has happened, and the second part is doing something about it. But over all of this is Krishna's hand, or God's hand in it. So you have to see how this triangle fits in. There's what has happened to you, what you can do about it, and then God's hand. So these three things are always going to shift in back and forth. So you have to see what's best in a given situation. Not every situation is going to be the same. Any other questions?
At the beginning, you mentioned the story and you said it's make-believe, just for a lesson at the end of the story. It was from the Veda.
So Vedas, there's two kinds of Vedas. There's something that has been said, like in story form. Like what I'm saying right now is I'm not writing it down and publishing it to you, nor are you writing it down yourself. So that's more like, it's like a recitation. It's called Smriti, right? By hearing, you're writing it down. And then the Shruti, but this is just by recitation. The other one is Shruti, where you write it down. By hearing, you write everything down. So the Vedas that we study, Bhagavad Gita, all these things, those are all Shruti, because they've all been written down. Right? But the other one, the story that I said, has been passed on from generation. No one has written it down. It's become like a story that's changed from household to household. Characters have changed, but the essence of the story has remained the same.
And the Mahabharata.
That's part of, that Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata.
Okay.
So Mahabharata was written down at some point. Not the first time, but the second time when it was recited, it was written down. So, anyone else? Yes.
A lot of the times, at least in my case, you develop gratitude through suffering. So, my question is, how do you, because naturally, it's within us, but a lot of the times, naturally, we're not so grateful. We have to develop it. So, my question is, without suffering, how do you develop? But you were saying through service, but a lot of times we don't do that. But I was just, what are your thoughts?
How to become grateful through suffering?
Without suffering.
Without suffering. But how to be grateful when you're suffering.
No, for example, you have everything's nice, and it's hard to be grateful.
Right.
But when things are hard and you go through some, difficult situation, then you realize, oh yeah, I don't want to take this for granted, or this is, and you start to be more grateful. But how do you become grateful without suffering?
It's difficult. It's very difficult because you take everything for granted.
Yeah.
So the more one suffers and at the same time realizes that he's suffering and he's grateful at the same time, then that's a very, very good sign that he's progressing in spiritual life, or that he's a very elevated soul. Because one who is not realizing that one who is not grateful and suffering. So people are generally very grateful when they're not suffering. In general, people are thankful, like, oh my God, God, thank you so much for giving me money. But when it comes to suffering, those who are grateful when they're suffering, they're more elevated. But people who fail to realize that they're suffering, fail to become grateful when suffering, they don't realize the hand of God in that situation. But someone who has realized it and is still suffering, and they're so thankful, that means that they have very good character. They're very noble in their heart. They have a very strong heart. And there's nothing in this world that can bring them down. Because they're a fighter. They're a born fighter. Some people just have a karma of fighting. From birth till the end, they'll fight. They'll fight for the small things, they'll fight for the big things, they'll fight. And that fighting will never come to an end. Their whole life is like that. In the Mahabharata, there's a character named Karna. He was Kunti Maharani's first son, but she wasn't married at that point. So his whole life, he struggled from birth. His mother, when he was born, due to save herself from public disgrace, she's put him in a basket and let him flow down the river Ganga, or the Ganges. And he was found by a charioteer, a husband-wife charioteer, who used to drive the chariots of all the princely order. And his whole life he suffered. He was a Kshatriya, he was a prince by birth, but he wasn't recognized. He was called a Shudra, or a laborer class. And laborer class is the lowest class there is. His whole life he struggled. Even when Duryodhana made him the king of a small province named Anga, he still suffered because he was not recognized, because he was born a Shudra. He was born a Shudra. No one knew of his birth. People still made fun of him. And then, even when he got a spiritual master, he still wasn't able to enjoy that because his spiritual master cursed him, because he lied to his spiritual master. And then when he got all the weapons that he had to take out from Indra, from this and that, he had to give up his bodily shield that he was born with. He had to give that up because of providence, because of destiny, whatever you want to call it. But he fought. His whole life was a struggle. Same way, there are some people in this world who struggle constantly. It's just in them. But every single struggle that they're given, God knows that they can cross it, because God doesn't give you any struggle that you can't fight. Otherwise that would be unfair. Right? So whatever struggle comes your way, embrace it. And it's difficult to be grateful. Very difficult to be grateful if you don't know why it's coming. But it's more difficult to be grateful even if you know why it's coming, but you don't want to accept it. It's more difficult to be grateful then. So you have to accept it. But it's limited. It's not permanent. Your happiness and distress, they come and go. It's all temporary. There's a fixed amount of happiness in your life that you're destined to, and then a specific amount of unhappiness that you're destined to. You'll get both. And the quota that's destined for you in this life, you will get it to the dot. Not whatever money you're supposed to earn, you will get the exact amount, not a cent more, not a cent less. Same way with happiness and distress and struggle and joy. It's all fixed. It's all destined. Everything is fixed. Did I answer your question? Yes.
Is it necessary to be grateful, or should one still be grateful if one knows that the giver had ulterior motives for giving, but did it for their own benefit, not from the heart. Should one still have that attitude of gratitude, or show that attitude of gratitude?
You tell me. What do you think?
I think so.
I think so too. I think so too. Even if you don't know where it's coming from, if you still say, I'm thankful, that's very good. Because it makes your heart softer. It makes you nicer and more pleasing to others. Because it's nice to be liked by others. Even if it's not spiritual, even if it's material, everyone needs love. So, just for the sake of love, we should be grateful. Because what we give is what we get. Just by the nature of karma. Any other questions?